In this video we will talk about Maxwell materials and how to manage them in Maxwell Studio. Create a new material by right-clicking in the Materials panel and choosing New Material. Press F2 with the material selected to rename it. The Reflectance 0 color is the main color of the object. You can apply the material to the cup by simply dragging it over the object in the viewport. The orange material has a roughness of 100, making it a perfectly diffuse surface. Let's create a more mirror-like surface by lowering the roughness from 100 to 25. Clone the previous material by right-clicking on its name in the materials list. Change the Reflectance 0 color. Double-click in the Material Preview area to render a material preview. Apply the same color to the Reflectance 90, which is the color seen at the glancing angle of the object. You can also apply materials to objects by dragging them directly over the object in the Objects List panel. As you can see, the lower the roughness value, the smoother and more reflective the surface will be. Now we are going to create a plastic. Plastics are made using a combination of a diffuse component and a mirror component. So we will need to create a 2 BSDF component material, a diffuse BSDF and a smooth mirror-like BSDF. Right-click in the material tree to add a second BSDF to the material structure. You can rename them for clarity. The specular component is characterized by its low roughness value, around 5. You can change the preview scene using the right-click menu. The mix of the BSDFs can be controlled using the BSDF weight setting. In this case we want to lower the influence of the specular BSDF to around 25%. Apply the new material to the second cup by dragging it over the object's name. As with real cameras, you can adjust the exposure of your image using the aperture or speed priority settings. Here you can do this by ticking the Lock Exposure checkbox. When the multi-light option is enabled, you can adjust each emitter separately, giving you full control over the resulting image. As you can see, creating physically correct diffuse, specular and plastic materials is pretty easy in Maxwell Render. Now we are going to create a glass material. Choose New Material from the right-click menu. The transmittance color is the color of your glass. Select a pale green color to get a green tinted glass. All transparent materials become opaque at high thickness. The attenuation distance is the thickness over which the glass becomes less transparent. Set it to 30 cm. Set roughness to 0 to create a perfectly smooth glass. You can also try higher values to produce frosty materials. The default checker scene is useful for testing transparent materials. Set the ND refraction index value to 1.5, which is the refraction index of common glass. As you can see, it is straightforward to create physically correct glass materials in Maxwell Render. Now we are going to apply 3 different materials to the cup. In order to do this, we must create triangle groups to specify which areas of the cups will receive a certain material. Select the cup and switch to triangle selection mode. Press the V key on your keyboard to maximize the viewport for easier selection of triangles. To select only the triangles facing the camera, switch to front face mode. With the triangle selected, right-click in the viewport and choose Group Triangles. The new triangle group appears in the Triangle Groups section of the Object Parameters panel. Invert the current triangle selection using the Selection menu. Switch to Raycast mode to select all triangles, including those facing away from the camera. Hold down the Control key to remove the triangles that are not part of the cup handle. This way we select the handle geometry. Create a second triangle group for the handle. Create a material for the handle using 2 BSDF components, a diffuse component that gives the color and a mirror component that gives the specular reflections, mixed using the weight values. Assign it to the handle triangle group by dragging and dropping. Create another material for the inside of the cup by cloning and adapting the handle material. Assign it to the inside triangle group. Create a third material for the rest of the cup. This material will use a texture instead of a uniform color. Click in the checker icon to apply a texture to Reflectance 0 and adjust the map size and tiling. For the moment, this is a pure diffuse textured material. Add a second BSDF component with low roughness to create specular reflections. Set its weight to 25 for a moderately reflective material. Apply this material to the object itself. In the Object List panel, an icon appears next to the object to let you know that this object has multiple materials applied to it. Even when switching the viewport to textured or textured decal mode, the texture does not seem to appear on the object. It appears to be the same way in the render. This is because the object needs to have its UV set adjusted in order for the texture to appear correctly on it. Click on the UV set belonging to the object and switch it from locked to cylindrical, which is an appropriate UV type for the cup. Switch to UV selection mode to see and manipulate the UV set in the viewport. Make sure the object's UV set is also selected. The brackets viewport mode can be useful to get a clear view. Adjust the UV gizmo. For the cylindrical UV set, the scale tool won't change how the texture is applied to the object. You can use the Adjust tool to adapt the UV projection to the object size. In order to change the scale of the cylindrical UV set, use the height parameter. Adjust the height until the texture is applied correctly to the cup. Make a test render. We will now create a metal material for the table surface. Metals have a low roughness to create a reflective surface. Set the ND to a high value like 15 to make more patent reflections. Right-click in the preview area and store a preview of the current material. Check the Force Fresnel option, which is recommended for metal materials. Store a second preview of the material. This allows you to quickly switch between different versions of your material for comparison. Delete the first stored preview. Let's create a triangle group for the table surface. Use the Expand to Boundary feature to select all the triangles of the table surface. Create a new triangle group for the table surface and name it. Apply the metal material to the table surface triangle groups and make a test render. A medium roughness value, in this case 40, produces a surface with blurred reflections. Next we will create a similar metal material for the table rim. This time we are going to apply some anisotropy to create a subtle brushed metal effect, so set the anisotropy to 80. Anisotropy surfaces present reflections stretched in a particular direction. You can change this direction by varying the anisotropy angle. Apply it to the table rim and render. Anisotropy appears in surfaces that were brushed in a particular direction. Without a doubt, one of the most interesting resources to learn about materials is the Maxwell Material Gallery. You can download thousands of free, physically correct materials to use in your scenes. Enter the MXM Gallery at resources.maxwellrender.com. All contents are free, you just need to register to be able to download materials. You can search by keywords to find the materials you need, find an interesting and useful material and download it. Here we have downloaded a concentric sheet metal material for the table. Maxwell Studio now has a direct connection with the MXM Gallery website. Make sure you enter your login details in the preferences. Access the MXM Gallery from the Material Browser panel. You can perform a search as if you were in the MXM Gallery website. Double-clicking on a thumbnail will show a larger version of it. To import a material into your scene, simply drag and drop it into the Material List panel. The material is automatically downloaded, unpacked and stored into your project folder and is ready to use in your scene. Apply the new material to the table surface. Again, select the Textured Viewport mode to adjust the UV projection. Use the UV selection mode and choose a planar or cubic projection. To get a smaller pattern, you can adjust the size of the texture on the object, or adjust the tiling in the texture picker to increase or decrease how many times the texture is repeated on the object. The small image editor can be used to adjust the brightness, contrast and saturation of your image. Choose your desired view and hit render. Maxwell Render has a new stacked layer system that allows you to create complex multi-layered materials in a very intuitive way. We are going to add mirror details to the surface of the cups. In the right-click menu, select Add Layer. Each layer represents a whole material and is stacked one over another. The top layer now completely hides the layer underneath it, just like the layers in Photoshop. You can set an opacity value just like you do with the Photoshop layers and you will get a mix. You can apply a mask to control where this material will appear and where not. White areas will reveal the layer, dark areas will hide it. Set the roughness to a low value like 3 and set a high ND value like 15 to create an almost perfect mirror. You can choose which texture contained in the material should be displayed in the viewport by hitting the checker icon. These are the areas that will present the mirror material. Render the scene. You can see the mirror material only where indicated in the layer mask. As you can see, multi-layered materials are pretty easy to create in Maxwell Render. The new Maxwell Render interface is completely flexible and customizable. Each panel can be detached and placed anywhere in the interface. The interface will be adapted to the new panel configuration. Tabs can be created by dropping a panel on top of another panel. You can hide or show the panels using the View menu or by right-clicking in the render area. With Multilight enabled, you can adjust the contribution of each emitter using the sliders. You can display the render in full size using the View menu or by clicking the F key. You can show or hide all the panels using the H key. An RGB readout of the current mouse location can be useful when making adjustments to the render. Zoom in or out by scrolling the mouse wheel, pan the render by pressing the mouse wheel or the middle mouse button and dragging on the render, or use the right-click menu. For a more in-depth description of the Maxwell materials, please check the Maxwell manual or watch the materials video. Thank you for watching this video.